There is a quiet, almost universal dread that settles over the global consciousness as Sunday evening slowly fades into the cold, demanding reality of a brand new week. We have all felt it at some point. That subtle, undeniable shift in the atmosphere, a collective sigh echoing across continents as millions of people realize their brief window of freedom has closed once again. It is a phenomenon so deeply woven into the fabric of modern existence that it transcends culture, language, and geography. Monday arrives not merely as a day on the calendar, but as an imposing, inescapable structure of obligation, a weekly reminder of the routines we must maintain. For generations, humanity has tried to negotiate with this relentless cycle, seeking comfort in weekend rituals or attempting to mentally escape the inevitable approach of the alarm clock. Yet, the sheer weight of this transition remains entirely unchanged. It makes one wonder if our entire relationship with the concept of time is fundamentally flawed. We divide our precious lives into neat, artificial little boxes, pretending we have mastered the flow of existence, when in reality, we are simply passengers on a rapidly spinning planet, trying to keep our balance while clutching a lukewarm cup of coffee. The absolute absurdity of this weekly reset is enough to make anyone question the rules we have so willingly agreed to follow. This ongoing, silent battle with the calendar often leads to desperate, highly imaginative fantasies of rebellion against the system. Imagine, if you will, a world where we could simply rewrite the rules of time to suit our collective mental well-being and emotional peace. What if we could relegate the difficult concept of Monday exclusively to the cold, dark depths of winter, leaving our vibrant summer months entirely untouched by its heavy, productivity-focused hand? It is an incredibly tempting thought to think that we could simply adjust half a calendar rather than struggling through the full, grueling stretch of 52 consecutive weeks. In moments of peak exhaustion, the idea of taking a sharp blade, perhaps a precise and dangerous X-Acto knife, and physically excising those troublesome days straight from the wall calendar feels less like a joke and more like a necessary revolutionary act of self-preservation. We dream of slicing away the upcoming obstacles, wishing for an endless, uninterrupted stretch of Tuesday through Sunday, hoping that by altering the paper representation of our lives, we might somehow alter reality itself. But as the paper scraps fall uselessly to the floor, we are left with the undeniable truth that time cannot be so easily manipulated. And the chaotic nature of our daily lives will always find a way to break through our most carefully constructed defenses. When our attempts to control the world around us inevitably falter, we are left with a simple choice. We can either succumb to the mounting frustration, or we can find solace in the spectacular, unpredictable mistakes of others. This is precisely where the true, unfiltered comedy of the human condition reveals itself. It is in these moments of minor disaster, sudden confusion, and unforeseen irony that we find a strange, comforting solidarity with our fellow human beings. Before we dive deep into the fascinating and deeply baffling events that transpired over the course of the last week, it is worth taking a moment to reflect on why we gather here to witness these slip-ups. If you find yourself nodding along in recognition of life's daily absurdities, or if you simply appreciate a shared laugh in a world that often takes itself far too seriously, consider joining our growing community of observers. By subscribing to this channel, you ensure that you never have to face the chaotic onslaught of the upcoming work week alone, as we continue to document the hilarious, the bizarre, and the utterly inexplicable occurrences of our shared journey. Together, we can transform the weekly grind into a genuine celebration of beautiful, messy, and hilarious human imperfection, as we prepare to pull back the curtain on the specific, chaotic occurrences of the past few days. We must first set the stage for the sheer variety of human error we are about to witness. There is a well-known theory in popular psychology known as the 10,000-hour rule, which famously suggests that achieving true mastery of any complex skill requires an immense dedication of time and highly focused practice. Yet, when we observe the sheer scale of the spectacular blunders that occur around us daily, one has to wonder if some individuals have accidentally spent their 10,000 hours mastering the art of the perfect, chaotic mistake. The odds of certain coincidences happening in our daily routines are so infinitesimally small that they seem to defy the laws of physical probability entirely, leaving us to wonder if there is a mischievous author writing the script of our lives. From botanical anomalies that seem to defy gravity and natural law, to culinary choices that challenge the very definition of what is appetizing, the world is teeming with quiet, hilarious disasters waiting to be noticed. We find ourselves standing on the precipice of a grand tour of these minor catastrophes, preparing to analyze the precise moments where human intention clashed spectacularly with physical reality. To truly appreciate the depth of these errors, we must first understand the subtle, delicious tension that builds just before a mistake is fully realized. Think of the sudden cold realization that washes over someone when they look at a simple everyday object and realize it has gone completely hilariously wrong. It is the silent, confused dialogue between a person and a stubborn household cactus that has suddenly decided to grow in a way no plant ever should, or the profound shock of a parent presenting a snack that is somehow the exact size of their child's head, leading to a look of utter, silent betrayal. These are not grand, sweeping tragedies. They are the tiny, friction-filled moments that puncture our dignity and remind us of our inherent vulnerability. As we begin this journey into the heart of last week's most memorable missteps, we invite you to clear your mind, forget the looming shadow of the work week, and prepare to witness a masterclass in how not to navigate the modern world. The stage is set, the evidence has been gathered, and the grand tapestry of human confusion is about to be unraveled, piece by glorious piece, as we embark on this narrative journey together. We now enter the very heart of the chaos, where the abstract beauty of human error manifests in concrete, undeniable physical reality. To understand the sheer scale of the bewilderment that occurred over the last week, one must look closely at the individual cases that defy all logical explanation, starting with a botanical mystery that has left plant enthusiasts and casual observers alike completely speechless. Consider the humble cactus, a resilient desert survivor known for its stoic, low-maintenance lifestyle and its predictable, upward-reaching growth patterns. Yet, in one household, a particular specimen decided to rewrite the biological playbook entirely, choosing to bend, fold, or collapse in a manner so structurally compromised that it seemed to be actively apologizing for its own existence. The owner of this plant was left staring at a drooping, deflated green pillar that looked less like a proud desert dweller and more like a melted green candle, prompting a silent, hilarious promise from the plant that it had absolutely never had this sort of physical structural problem before. It is a moment of quiet, botanical embarrassment that perfectly captures how even Mother Nature herself can occasionally experience a major design flaw when she thinks nobody is watching her closely. Moving from the quiet world of houseplants to the deeply expressive faces of our youngest generation, we find an even more dramatic display of sudden, unexpected confusion. Picture the scene of a well-meaning parent who decided to present their toddler with what can only be described as a gargantuan snack. A portion of food so comically oversized that it was literally the exact size of half the poor child's head. The resulting photograph captured a moment of pure, unadulterated human emotion that words can barely do justice. The child's face did not register joy, excitement, or hunger. Instead, it displayed a profound, deeply questioning sense of betrayal. A silent look directed at the parent that said, with absolute clarity, that only a true, unfeeling monster would expect a small human to tackle such an overwhelming mountain of sustenance. It is the kind of face that immediately tells 1,000 stories, a testament to the fact that sometimes our attempts to be generous and nurturing can backfire so spectacularly that we end up looking like the absolute villains of our own households, leaving our children to wonder about our basic judgment. As if the culinary confusion of oversized snacks were not quite enough, the world of food preparation provided even more bizarre mysteries to unpack this week, particularly in the realm of poultry anatomy. A home cook was left in a state of deep existential contemplation after examining a chicken carcass that seemed to defy all known principles of avian symmetry and biological development. The physical evidence presented in the kitchen raised a highly unusual, borderline ridiculous question. Was this specific chicken left-handed, or perhaps more accurately, right-winged. The distribution of muscle, bone, and skin was so incredibly lopsided that it looked as though the bird had spent its entire lifetime working out only one side of its upper body, leaving the cook to wonder what kind of bizarre, single-winged exercise routine this animal could have possibly been performing in the coop. It is a hilarious testament to the strange anomalies of the food industry, where a simple preparation of a family dinner can suddenly turn into a complex scientific investigation into the physical habits of individual farm animals, leaving the cook with a highly uneven meal and a mind full of unanswered questions. The culinary oddities only grew stranger as we moved into the realm of household baking and the highly delicate subject of personal hand hygiene. One particular baker shared a photograph of a baking endeavor that went so horribly wrong that it left viewers questioning not only the recipe, but the very environment in which it was created. There was a highly suspicious, deeply concerning visual element in the image that immediately captured everyone's attention. A mysteriously, deeply tanned palm print emblazoned directly onto the baking surface, contrasted sharply against an otherwise pale, pristine hand. The visual juxtaposition was so stark and unusual that it immediately sparked an intense debate online about what could have possibly transpired in that kitchen. Had the baker experienced a sudden, catastrophic self-tanning accident midway through measuring out the flour, or was there some bizarre, heat-activated chemical reaction occurring directly on their skin? The image stood as a silent, hilarious monument to the weird, unexplained mishaps that occur behind closed doors, proving that sometimes the process of making food can be infinitely more dramatic and visually alarming than the actual finished product. Meanwhile, in the fast-paced and highly automated world of digital commerce and modern home delivery, a completely different kind of human comedy was unfolding, driven by pure, unyielding stubbornness. We have all experienced the mild anxiety of making a mistake on an online order, but most of us would simply cancel the transaction or contact customer service to rectify the issue before it goes too far. Not so for one particular customer who decided to let a highly obvious, deeply flawed order proceed all the way to their front doorstep, leading to a hilarious standoff between consumer and technology. It raises a very simple, incredibly loud question. Do people realize they can actually just hit the cancel button instead of letting the train wreck happen in slow motion? The sheer passive resistance required to watch a delivery mistake slowly make its way through a warehouse, onto a delivery truck, and onto your porch, all while knowing it is completely incorrect, is a level of commitment to chaos that is both deeply terrifying and highly respectable. It is a modern tragedy of errors that could have been solved with a single click, yet was allowed to bloom into a magnificent physical monument to human stubbornness. This complete lack of communication and visual clarity seems to be a running theme in our daily public spaces, as evidenced by another glorious failure of basic urban planning and signage. Imagine arriving at a location only to realize that a highly important, potentially dangerous obstacle has been left completely unmarked and unguided, forcing visitors to navigate a confusing, hazardous landscape based on pure guesswork. You find yourself wanting to yell out, with a mix of exhaustion and genuine concern, whether there is any possible chance that the people in charge could put up a simple, readable sign to prevent immediate disaster. The absence of basic instruction in places where it is desperately needed is a constant source of frustration. Yet, when viewed from a distance, it becomes a beautiful piece of physical comedy, a silent performance art piece about the complete failure of human coordination. It is as if the universe is constantly testing our spatial awareness and our ability to survive without the help of written directions, turning a simple trip to the local store or office into a high-stakes obstacle course where only the most alert and physically agile individuals can hope to emerge entirely unscathed. To round out this midsection of our weekly tour of human error, we must look at the highly competitive, occasionally mischievous world of commercial packaging. There is a deep, abiding trust we place in the labels of the products we buy, assuming that the can of soup or beans we purchase actually contains what is written on the tin. However, it appears that a certain canning company has decided to throw caution to the wind, embarking on what can only be described as the practical joke of a lifetime. A consumer opened a standard, unsuspecting, can only to find a contents list and physical product that was so wildly, hilariously different from the label that it felt like an act of deliberate sabotage. The resulting dish did not look particularly appetizing, to put it incredibly mildly, resembling a strange gray substance that defied all culinary categorization. It is the kind of prank that makes you question your trust in the entire global supply chain, leaving you standing in your kitchen, can opener in hand, wondering if your next meal will be a delicious comfort food or a deeply unappealing, mystery-filled punchline to a joke you never asked to be a part of. As we venture even deeper into the magnificent, unregulated wild of human missteps, we find ourselves confronting the deeply awkward social realities of shared spaces and the excruciating anxiety of public confrontation. There is a distinct, highly specific type of dread associated with encountering a situation where someone has parked their vehicle, placed their belongings, or physically situated themselves in a way that completely blocks your path or violates basic spatial etiquette. You stand there, looking at the physical obstruction, and realize that you are now forced to engage in that most painful of modern rituals, politely asking another human being to move. It is a moment of intense, silent calculation, where you must weigh the inconvenience of being blocked against the potential social discomfort of a confrontational conversation. You cannot help but imagine that these interactions almost never go over particularly well, especially when the offending party seems entirely oblivious to their own spatial transgression, leaving you to navigate a minefield of defensive shrugs and reluctant adjustments. These tiny localized standoffs are played out thousands of times a day in parking lots, narrow hallways, and crowded public transit systems all over the globe, serving as a constant, hilarious reminder that we are all just fragile egos trying to share a very crowded planet. This excruciating social friction is perhaps nowhere more prevalent or beautifully documented than in the highly sterile, passive-aggressive pressure cooker of the modern corporate office. We have all witnessed the slow, agonizing erosion of professional civility, often manifested in the highly creative and deeply petty notes left in shared breakrooms and communal kitchens. One particularly exhausted employee recently proposed a system that perfectly mirrors those classic convenience store coin trays, suggesting that we should establish a take-a-workday, leave-a-workday system. It is a brilliant, highly sarcastic critique of the relentless demands of the modern economy, highlighting the sheer, passive-aggressive exhaustion that settles over a team when everyone is quietly trying to offload their responsibilities onto anyone else who might be vulnerable. When communication completely breaks down in these professional settings, people stop talking to one another directly and instead resort to highly targeted laminated signs taped to refrigerators, creating a quiet, paper-based war of words that everyone observes but nobody ever openly acknowledges. It is a masterclass in indirect hostility, a hilarious testament to the fact that adult professionals will go to extraordinary lengths to avoid direct communication, preferring instead to let their frustration simmer in the form of polite, typed threats near the microwave. This complete breakdown of direct communication is not just limited to the workplace. It frequently makes its way into our most intimate personal relationships, often leading directly to what is colloquially and universally known as the domestic doghouse. There is a very specific, deeply painful brand of mistake that occurs when a well-meaning partner attempts to perform a helpful task, only to completely misinterpret their significant other's instructions with catastrophic results. Whether it is buying the absolute wrong brand of grocery item, assembling a piece of flat-pack furniture entirely upside down, or attempting a grand romantic gesture that ends up resembling a scene from a low-budget horror film. These domestic blunders are the fast track to a highly uncomfortable evening on the couch. You can practically hear the collective sigh of partners worldwide as they look at the results of these endeavors and realize with absolute certainty that their loved one has made a critical error in judgment. It is a reminder that even in our closest bonds, the gap between what we say and what our partners actually hear can sometimes be vast enough to sink an entire relationship, turning a simple household chore into a highly memorable, long-lasting lesson in the importance of paying extremely close attention to the details. Sometimes, however, the errors we encounter are not the fault of our loved ones or our coworkers, but are instead built directly into the physical objects that surround us, resulting in bizarre design choices that look genuinely monstrous. Consider the unsettling visual of a chest of drawers or a wooden cabinet that has had its hardware handles or wooden slats so poorly aligned or entirely removed that it begins to look like a living, breathing entity. One cannot help but look at such a piece of damaged furniture and remark, with a mix of amusement and genuine horror, that the chest is visibly missing all of its teeth, transforming a simple bedroom storage unit into a gaping, wooden grin that looks ready to bite anyone who dares to reach for a clean pair of socks. These manufacturing and maintenance failures introduce an element of the surreal into our domestic spaces, forcing us to live alongside objects that seem to be actively decaying or mocking us with their structural flaws. It makes you wonder how these items ever passed a basic quality control inspection, or what sequence of unfortunate events led to a piece of functional furniture looking like a prop from a spooky carnival ride, leaving the owner to contemplate the strange, toothless face staring back at them every single morning. This sense of domestic hazard extends naturally into the realm of household maintenance, health remedies, and the highly questionable advice that occasionally circulates through families and online communities. We have all heard of bizarre, old-fashioned home remedies passed down through generations, but some of last week's discoveries took this concept to a highly alarming, potentially explosive level. When dealing with experimental health cleanses or poorly labeled dietary supplements, there is always a very real, highly present danger that you may find your bowels clean through entirely unexpected, deeply urgent physical means that you certainly did not anticipate when you started your day. This risk is only compounded when people begin using heavy-duty industrial chemicals in place of actual medical treatments, such as the baffling revelation from one individual who discovered that standard household spray lubricant can apparently double as a highly effective, incredibly greasy lubricant for your stiff, aching kneecaps. The image of someone eagerly spraying their joints with the industrial aerosol can, in the pursuit of pain relief, is both deeply concerning and undeniably hilarious, highlighting the incredible lengths to which humans will go to avoid visiting a medical professional, choosing instead to treat their own bodies like a squeaky garage door. This dangerous, experimental attitude frequently spills over into the kitchen, where the delicate art of baking can quickly transform into a high-stakes chemistry experiment gone horribly wrong. The phrase secret ingredient brownies usually conjures up images of rich espresso powder, a pinch of sea salt, or perhaps a dash of high-quality vanilla extract to elevate the flavor profile of a classic chocolate dessert. However, some adventurous home cooks have taken this concept far too literally, introducing ingredients that have absolutely no business being anywhere near a hot oven or a mixing bowl. When the secret ingredient turns out to be something physically hazardous, visually repulsive, or chemically active, the resulting baked goods become less of a treat and more of a threat to public safety. It is the moment where culinary curiosity crosses the line into complete madness, leaving unsuspecting family members to bite into a seemingly delicious brownie only to realize, with a sudden wave of panic, that the secret ingredient is something that should have remained strictly confined to the garage or the cleaning supply closet, completely ruining the sweet illusion of a homemade dessert. As we reach the digital age, these physical errors find a terrifying parallel in the virtual world, where a single clumsy keystroke can destroy years of cherished memories in an instant. There is a cruel, modern irony in the way we trust our entire lives, photographs, and personal histories to fragile digital drives and complex cloud storage systems, only to watch them vanish because we click the wrong button. It is the ultimate magic trick of the 21st century, where a user can confidently declare that for their next grand performance, they will make all of your precious, irreplaceable family photos disappear completely into the digital ether with no hope of recovery. The absolute panic of watching a progress bar rapidly erase your digital footprint is a modern horror story that almost everyone has experienced, a harsh reminder of how easily our highly advanced technology can turn against us when we fail to pay attention to those tiny, easy-to-miss warning prompts. Ultimately, all of these magnificent disasters, from the botanical anomalies and the relationship blunders to the digital wipeouts, can be traced back to a single fundamental human flaw, our complete and utter failure to communicate clearly with one another. It is as if humanity is engaged in a permanent global game of telephone, where the original, simple message is passed from person to person, constantly morphing, distorting, and degrading until the final result is a completely unrecognizable, hilariously distorted version of the truth. Yet, as we look back over the spectacular collection of failures from the past week, we should not view them with judgment or despair, but with a profound sense of gratitude. These errors are the connective tissue of our shared experience, the gentle reminders that no matter how organized, professional, or put together we pretend to be, we are all ultimately susceptible to the same chaotic, unpredictable, and beautiful moments of human error. It is through these shared laughs and collective sighs of relief that we find the strength to face the upcoming week, knowing that whatever mistakes we might make, we are absolutely not